So I'm sure by now you have heard of eXp Realty. You may be an agent or broker with eXp Realty right now, or you may be just looking at the company and doing your due diligence. But in this video, my business partner, Pat Hayes, is going to be interviewing Glenn Sanford, the founder and CEO of eXp World Holdings. He's going to take you back in time and share with you his tech background, his story, how he became a real estate agent, the level of volume that they were doing before the financial crash, all the details of how he created eXp Realty. So be sure to stick around to the end because Glenn is going to be sharing his vision of where the company is going to be going and actually the opportunity that the company has global. So I hope you enjoy the video.
Glenn, welcome to the call. Can you hear us?
Hey, Pat. Hey, everyone. I just noticed I went and did the whole view by, in that gallery view. There's a lot of folks here today on the.
I want to kick it back off to you and just say, tell us a little bit about Glenn Sanford. I mean, you can go all the way back to kind of whenever you first got started to where you are now.
Hey, thanks, Pat. Yeah. So, obviously it's been a crazy rocket ride for the last 11 years. But my background, just to kind of go back, sort of historically, I kind of went through a bit of a rags to riches to rags story in my early days. So, when I was from northern Alberta originally, we lived in a single wide manufactured home up north of Edmonton. When I was about 3 years old, we moved to British Columbia, Lower Mainland, who actually pulled our home with us. So we drug our single wide to Abbotsford, British Columbia, and then my dad was a bit of an entrepreneur, and he and my brother, or not my brother, his brother, they got into the granola manufacturing business, and they'd been beekeepers in Alberta, so they were managing bees and selling honey. And they bought an interest in a granola manufacturing company, and from 1971 to 1978, they grew that from an original investment of about $9,000 to ultimately selling it to Kellogg's for about $3.5 million. So in 1978, that was a lot of money. I mean, nowadays it's a decent amount of money, but it's not going to ultimately change your life for a long period of time, just because cost of living and everything else has gone up. But back then that was a big deal. And so we went from, single wide manufactured home to the largest home, or second largest home in the Lower Mainland. Not that the size mattered, but it was 10,000 square feet, and all the trappings of a beautiful home. And then in 78, he sold that to Kellogg's. And then in 1979, we moved to Oklahoma. So we moved to Oklahoma to get in the oil and gas business. And as many of you know, given that there's probably a lot of Texas folks here, 1980, you might remember, was not a good year for oil. And so we were in the oil and gas business. My dad basically lost everything in that. And then, really kind of struggled from there on out, as he got a few base hits, but nothing significant. And so, went to, the whole idea of, trying to manage the creditors and try to keep them off your back and all that stuff. And so one of the things I learned back then, and it really was very formative for me, because I was 12, 13 years old, was, once you have a business that works, take care of that business. That business, I was not happy because I had recognized, even at a young age, how some of my friends in school, their parents struggled, and recognized that the business that my dad had built was something, really, really special. And so, as an entrepreneur, I decided at a young age that I was going to pursue being an entrepreneur. Sales, technology was a big part of that. And but one of the things was, once you have something that works, just keep on, building that. And you hear a lot of people who will build a company and then flip it, and build a company and then flip it. And some people do good at that. I didn't, from my background, I once I found something, I wanted to build it build it big and just continue to iterate on it and that type of thing. So that was kind of some formative stuff. I was a stockbroker at one time when I was 21, actually I was a stockbroker a couple times. I worked for America Online at one point, actually managing their financial bulletin boards and chat rooms. So I have a bit of a financial bent to my background. I built a couple different internet-based companies prior to real estate. Interactive Cafe was the first one, which was became the largest online service in Western Canada. And then we got our hat handed to us during the because of not high-speed internet, but just the internet. So we went from an online service to competing with unlimited internet for $19.95 a month, and then and that was in the mid '90s. And then I built an e-commerce logistics company just before the .com collapse, and so that was a company called eShippers.com. And really, in 2001, I got out of that late in 2001. And then was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was doing some web design work to sort of pay the bills. And I ended up getting tapped on the shoulder by a real estate agent who decided I was going to get my real estate license. And I say he decided that I was going to get my real estate license because, initially he said, yeah, I was helping him with some lead gen as a real estate agent. And he says, Glenn, you need to get your real estate license. And I'm like, I need a real estate license like I need a hole in the head. That was literally what I told him. And he says, well, what's it going to take? I said, I don't know. Nobody makes any money, the first couple of years in real estate. That was my perception. And he said, basically said, what's it going to take? And I said, I don't know, guarantee me $3,000 a month. And then he said, fine. And I said, oh crap. So that was the, and then I said, okay. And I feel like almost like Joe Pesci, where you go, okay. So, but I don't want to talk to my friends and family. I don't want to wear a realtor pin at the grocery store. I don't want to do open houses. I just want to do internet lead gen. And that's how I'm going to build the business. And he said, okay. And so then a month later, he said, Glenn, why don't you have your real estate license? Because you can study for the license online and knock it out in a couple of weeks. And I said, well, Hugh, which was his name, I get paid $60 an hour to do web design work. And he literally said, okay, I'll pay you $60 an hour, go get your license. So he literally paid me $60 an hour to study for my license exam. So like I said, he decided I was going to get my real estate license, not me. And, but one of the cool things is because he made this investment in me, I took real estate really, really seriously. So day one, I'm going, this guy just put a bunch of money into me getting my exam done. He's paying me not huge, but enough to keep the wolf away from the door financially during those early formative stages. And I said, if this guy's going to invest in me, I'm going to take this really, really seriously. So I went and built my real estate practice as a freaking business. And so that year, just from clients I met online, I did 17 transactions. I did all the lead gen and everything else that went along with it. He was there. He was a mentor. The guy was a machine. He was 63, I think, at the time. He sold the prior year in 2001. He had sold 93 properties by himself without an assistant. And so he was always about being out where the houses and the people were. That was his phrase. So I'd be on the computer and I go, Hugh, where are you going? He goes, well, I'm going out where the houses and the people are. And so he was just this machine, super, super nice guy, but really built a work ethic for me in the real estate business that helped me propel. So 17 properties, that 2002 Rookie of the Year, ended up building a really significant practice. First full year, I did $7.3 million in production, where the average price point in our marketplace is about $225, $250. But I ended up getting some higher end deals because of the internet. And so that helped my, not have to, sell, anyway, I sold a lot of property, but, and then 2004 came along, and at that point, Hugh and I had a 2-year deal, and at the end of that 2 years, I was generating a lot of leads, and I was generating leads actually in markets that I wasn't even in at that point. So I was doing a lot of SEO, a lot of internet lead gen. So and I was trying to refer leads out through the Prudential network. Figured out fairly quickly that referring leads out really was not a great way to get lead conversion. Most agents, given the choice of converting a lead that they get 100% on versus a lead that they're going to pay a 25% referral on, they're going to always work their database where they don't have to pay a referral. And so I learned that I was going to ultimately have to build a team. So I studied, a lot of stuff. There was a website at that time called I Succeed University. I studied that, profusely. Had another guy who I was referring leads to. He was closing a few of them, and he was at Remax. I was at Prudential. He ended up, we ended up talking to a number of offices, and Remax was there. But then he said, I've heard about this company called Keller Williams. I think they're very team friendly. You should check them out. So I went and talked to a team leader there. Saw the red books, read basically the first third of the book. Said, okay, this is where we're gonna do this, because there was a whole bunch of other stuff that really just made sense for me to team build. 2004, I don't remember exactly what our production was, but it was probably somewhere around $25 million in production. But by 2006, I was in the top 50 nationally with Keller. Did a little over $60 million in production. Was on stage and doing a bunch of stuff through the Keller system, and but I also was really interested in the profit share system, and so I'd literally be flying around the country, either launching websites into different markets, and we got to 6-7 cities, doing internet lead gen. And we would basically look for an agent where we could build the lead gen around, and that they would act like a team as a team leader, and they'd follow our franchisable follow-up model with their agents and coach that to their agents. And that worked really well. So I ultimately had 184 people in my profit share group at Keller by the end of 2006. And then in 2007, I didn't know what I was getting in profit share. I wasn't paying attention to it. I knew it was dropping into my bank account every month, but I wasn't keeping track of it. But in January of 2007, I got my 1099 from Keller, and I found out with that 184 people that I got a whopping $6,000 in profit share for the whole year. And just in one market center alone, I paid in with all the expenses and everything that was attached to that, $115,000. So I had, my cap, my teams on half cap. I was leasing space, and a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, I didn't see that 6,000 was going to overcome the expenses of being there, and I was doing all the work. So it wasn't like I was generating a whole bunch from the Keller system. So I said, I can hire a broker, less expensively than this. One of my assistants actually had a managing broker's license, gave her a couple $1 a month raise, moved into a little co-working space, and we launched a company called BuyerTours Realty. And that year we did 73 million in production in 2007. 2008 we were on track to do 100 million. So that, and then the second half of 2008 kicked in. So July things were getting slower, which wasn't normal. August was getting a lot slower, and then September, Lehman Brothers and the mortgage meltdown took place. And so I've never had a year where I've sold less than I sold the year before in real estate. And fortunately, 2008 was the same, but we only beat our 2007 numbers by about like $300,000 or $500,000. It was very, very small. But early in the year, we were selling, $7-8 million a month in closed business volume, and so unfortunately, but everything came to a screeching halt that we had to circle the wagons. We had to shut down some offices. We took agents and actually took some agents, moved them back to Keller, moved them to a company in Phoenix, Arizona called HomeSmart, and then up in the Pacific Northwest, we decided to sort of figure out what we were going to do next. And so we raised a little bit of money to just while we were trying to figure out what we're going to do next. And April 2009, a number of us got together. Obviously, Pat, you've got a great relationship with Brian Culhane, but Brian, Dale Kreiser, myself, a few other folks, we all met in Arizona, and the basic question came up is, when do we get our offices back? And that was one of the agents who just recently came back to eXp, but her name was Edie Kazaki. But she said, when do we get our offices back? Because she had an office in Seattle that we had been paying for that we let go. And I said, Edie, we're not getting our offices back. We've got to figure out a way to build a defensible business model that's not dependent on bricks and mortar. And that was like that formative statement. You know, if you ever make those statements where you just go, man, we have to do this, and then you go, okay, that's the business plan. That now became a business constraint. How do we build a business model that's not dependent on bricks and mortar? And then once we sort of did that and said, okay, we want to build something that has potential and has legs to go, to go big, then we looked at all the different models, Keller, Remax, everything that was out there at the time. There was a company called Connect and some others that eXp Realty, and just said, who's growing the fastest? What was their secret sauce? What do we need to do? And I remember even back in 2007 when I got my 1099. I remember walking back to the office after seeing my 1099, and there were a couple of guys there, Lauren and Rob, and they were in there, and I go, guys, if we ever build a real estate company, we're going to do revenue share, not profit share. And my basic premise was that at a minimum, you could put a management team in place and they would at least figure out how to break even. And that was sort of my, I figured that, a decent management team would figure out how to break even. And I personally wanted to get paid in revenue share, even in my own company, which, by the way, that's how I get effectively paid, in eXp, is through revenue share. So I really built this sort of with the idea that the revenue share would take care of my needs personally as well. But that was really formative. And so when we were sort of working on the non-bricks and mortar based business model, we were going, hey, we can do revenue share because we don't have the bricks and mortar expense, and as a result, we can tweak it and make it so it will work. And we worked on the model, and then the last piece that we needed to solve for, as you guys all know, is we operate the entire company virtually. I said, if we're going to have a company that's not dependent on bricks and mortar, then we, as a management team, and of course we were small, I think there were like 3 of us, we can't have an office either. And so we've got to operate in integrity with what we're asking our agents to do, because if we can't do it, how could we expect our agents to actually do this as well? So we said, okay, if we're going to do that, then how do we build collaboration and community? Because you can only do so much through, in this case, now we're doing Zoom, but back then it was Skype and whatever. But you can't really work in real time in collaboration, especially when you're talking about the back office, all those functions that go along in the back office side. And so somebody asked me, I think it was July 2009, what I thought the real estate office of the future looked like. And I literally described what we're doing with Verbella. And that was again, one of those sort of things where I hadn't said it and I didn't have it fully articulated, but when I said it, when it sort of came out of my mouth, it became like, oh yeah, why don't we do that? Like, what, instead of the future real estate brokerage doing that, why don't we build it with a virtual world? Because it made total sense how that would create foster a community, and we could sort of have the conversations and things. And it was goofy at the time. It's still probably a little goofy for some folks that we have the virtual world, but it worked. And it actually allowed us to brainstorm, mastermind, get work done. It was, could hang out in the office all day, have various conversations. People could run in and out and go, hey, what about this? What about that? And it really kind of created this very, a lot of serendipitous, meaningful collisions that allowed us to innovate and get stuff done. So that was kind of those early days. And of course, 2009, October 6th, we flipped all the branding, flipped the model, literally went from running a team-based model to now running a real estate brokerage. We had a lot of leads still coming in, which was really, really helpful, because the eXp model and the 80-20 splits and all the stuff that we had in there wouldn't fully pencil and pay all the team and everything else. It was pretty thin from a margin perspective, but we still had a lot of leads coming in from all of our different websites. So agents would work those leads, and hopefully they would pay us the referrals on them. But we're no longer running it as a team-based model. And fortunately, most of the agents that were working those leads, we were getting our our referral fees, and we used to be a 50-50 split model, and then we dropped it down to like 25%. And then eventually, those leads just sort of became just part of the mix, and we kind of kept keeping track of it. But for the first 2 years, we actually needed that extra income just to sort of get to the next spot, the next level in the company, so that we could continue to sort of break through the basic challenges of scaling the brokerage. So that was then, and obviously it's been a rocket ride ever since. We've never, sort of knock on wood, similar to when I was running my personal practice, and then ultimately BuyerTours Realty, and now eXp. We've never had a down month relative to the prior year. We've never had a month where we had fewer agents than we had the month before. We've continued to grow. We've continued to iterate on the value proposition, and I feel like at some level, the work I do is very similar to the work I did even back in day one. Except we've got such a great team. My role now is really just philosophizing the way that we approach work, such that agents and brokers and staff are able to just keep on innovating, iterating, growing, and then obviously the rewards of the platform made a heck of a lot of sense on paper back in 2009. I mean, we did the math, we had the revenue share calculator, we had the spreadsheets, and we're going, holy smokes, this thing has potential to be really big. But even by 2012, we still didn't think that, we thought by 2020, which obviously we're just closing out the year, we would be maybe 10,000 agents. And so we've kind of, one of the cool things about eXp is the business model is so powerful that we basically beat every single goal that we had, from a corporate perspective. And I think to some extent the platform and the way that we set up eXp, it's really allowed people to have success that they really couldn't have had in any other in a traditional model by any stretch of the imagination. It would have taken a complete retooling of the business and sort of go out of the box and sort of take that big risk, and that's tough to do. I mean, there's very few people that want to go through the brain damage that I went through, and I've never done this for the money. I mean, I've done it because the model made sense, but I'm more about doing really interesting things to see if they work, more so than saying, I need to make $1 million or $10 million or whatever. Money's still the way you keep score, so don't get me wrong, I still keep score, but I'm not doing it to run up the score so much as, really the idea of, what are the cool things that we can do that if they work, they'll put up a big score. So that's sort of the mindset. So anyway,
Yeah, no, Glenn, that's amazing story. I mean, very inspiring. And I'm having internet issues, but I hope you guys can hear me here. But I've got a few quick questions here. Then I want to open it up to the group here. So my first question is, Glenn, where do you see eXp Realty in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, so we can kind of do them. I have this conversation with a lot of investors, but you can kind of do the math on it pretty easily. And so eXp's never grown through the history of the company less than 50% year over year. And so if we think about that from an agent count perspective, we're approaching 40,000 agents. So let's just use that as a number. Then it's pretty easy to go, 60,000, 90,000, 130,000. So, get out 3 years, we're well over 100,000 agents. And I don't think that's really, really tough to sort of come up with those numbers. And you take it out another couple of years and now you're, over 200,000 agents. And and now we're the largest single brand in the real estate industry. So, Realty owns a bunch of brands. They cobble them together. They got 350,000 agents, but Keller Williams has the largest brand by agent count presently. So within 5 years, we'll be larger than we'll be the largest single real estate brand on the planet, from a real estate brand perspective. And then, if Michael Valdez even does half of what he's talking about, there you could layer in another 100 to 200,000 agents internationally to the mix. So you sort of think about, what does that mean? It means in 5 years we've got 300,000 agents minimum, and probably, again, if Michael, if you think about just the countries we've opened, and Michael talked about this, I think it was last week, just the countries we've opened outside of the U.S. represents a agent base of 3 million agents. In the U.S., there's 1.3, 1.4 million realtors. So just the markets he's opened, we've got more agents internationally that we can bring to the eXp business model than we even do have domestically. And he's, next year he'll probably add another 10 to 15 countries to that mix. So you start to sort of figure out what that means. We'll have a total addressable market of probably somewhere around 20 million agents by the time, Michael opens up all these countries. And you think about the value prop that eXp represents, who the heck knows? I mean, it could be, it's going to be bigger. I can guarantee that.
Love it. Well, I know with Dave Kennard's goals and Michael Valdez's goals, eXp is going to be definitely grown exponentially very quick here. So I know they're very competitive, but great leaders as well too. Well, I've got one more question here, and I know this might be one of your favorite questions, but where do you see Verbella in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, that one obviously has been one that we didn't quite prior to this year, see it as being a huge potential. We were trying, I was trying to get the team to think about different creative ways to market the platform, because I think the platform's amazing. But this year, we've got a who's who list of enterprises, universities, and others, they're coming in to use the platform at various levels. So, this year we've talked about, it's getting to, by early next year, it'll be, $1 million a month in revenue, just the Verbella platform. Beginning of the year, this year we were about 100,000 or so a month. So you think about, that's 10 times the size it was, in just 1 year. Obviously it's not going to grow that fast, percentage wise going forward, but you go out, 3, 4, 5 years, I mean, it could be its own $100-200 million a year enterprise supporting numerous, education institutions, numerous verticals. For us, it supports a number of different initiatives, obviously realty being the biggest one. But, as we're just in the process of closing the Success transaction. So we're buying, Success Media and Success and all that stuff. And so, the ability to stand up verticals inside of Success around coaching and training. And then, one thing that will be really interesting to think about is that we're going to introduce a co-working franchise concept. So, which means, if there's a broker owner who's got cool, trendy space, trying to figure out what the heck do I do with it when I convert my agents to eXp, maybe there's a potential where they could convert their space to a Success co-work space where all the members would get subscriptions to Success Magazine and Success Plus and coaching and training and access to the Success Coaching Network and all that type of stuff. And then we're able to do some of that inside of the incubate a lot of that stuff inside of the Verbella platform as well. So many different things that I think are coming that's going to be really cool. We think there's some cool stuff on the luxury side. We're just in the process of brainstorming out how we can, take the Success brand and then match it up with the with eXp to actually create. Just think about magazine covers of luxury properties with the word Success on them as yard signs. So there could be some really cool stuff. to be able to help us break into luxury space. So anyway, I know it's not all Verbella, but just want to get that out there.
Who's got a question for Glenn? Don't be shy.
I'll ask. Hey, Glenn, how you doing, buddy?
Good.
What was the response? I mean, obviously the pandemic and COVID, obviously you guys had an overwhelming response with Verbella, but kind of how did that feel, and what were you seeing in the industry as you've positioned eXp Realty? What was the response you got from different other industry professionals, and the response to Verbella being already set up for a global situation like that?
Well, so this we haven't published this, put this out there yet, but because of what had taken place, and we've been followed by a number of people, but we just got, we got asked to be a case study for Harvard University. So that case study just is in the process of being published. I just had to sign the rights over earlier this week. It'll be up as part of the case study network. But very few companies become a Harvard case study. And because of the way we built the company, we're being recognized as the new way to run companies, and obviously COVID was certainly an extra catalyst to getting recognized as that new way to run businesses.
Good stuff. Yeah, great question, Ian. All right, who's got another question for Glenn, real quick?
Go on. Hey, Glenn. Is there any plans for you to bring like a Zoom type of platform to eXp?
Probably not. Right now, whether you've got Zoom or Google Hangouts or Google, there's so many free platforms that you can, or relatively inexpensive platforms that you can do this with, that there's not. We may continue to enhance the functionality of Verbella. Now you can do live video. We had Robert Herjavec and Jason having conversations in the auditorium, and we've introduced more video assets to the platform. FrameVR.io is kind of a cool platform. You can check it out. It has the ability to have Zoom-like video where you can walk around with 20 or 30 people, have your webcams going, people can see who's talking, that type of thing. But the Zoom space is pretty crowded. There's a lot of tools already in this space, and so we're really trying to specialize in a sense of place rather than a something that's more Zoom-like.
Yeah. So the year before I discovered eXp, I had a mentor that asked me to read The Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. It really influenced my life enough to get me to leave corporate America and go on my own in real estate. And when I saw eXp, it struck me how well aligned it was with all the concepts in that book. I was wondering, had you read that before you created the business model, or were you inspired by that?
Probably. Well, I don't know that I was inspired by it. As a lot of people give network marketing and MLM a bad rap. I've been intrigued with that type of business model literally since I think I was like 17 or 18 years old. So I saw my first sort of network marketing concept back then. And so when we did Interactive Cafe, I attempted to do sort of a network marketing style comp plan. I did tools and technology for a company called New Ways International, built template websites for network marketers back in the 90s. So for me, I just felt that it was one of the most powerful ways to build businesses was with something that allowed you to build the network, and then also provide the same opportunity to the network that you're building. And it just made total sense for me. Every company, quite frankly, is a network marketing company. They just lie about it. So you got your CEO, you got your president and chief operating officer, and then you got your senior vice presidents, and then you got your vice presidents, and then you got your directors, then you got your managers, and then you got all the people that are, we'll call it, hourly based employees. Well, guess what? The hourly based employees are, effectively the folks that just joined a network marketing company. There's not a lot, they're not making a lot. they're just over broke. That's the definition of a job, JOB. And they've got to figure out ways to add value and sort of build their network and credibility, and eventually sort of climb the corporate ladder or start their own ladder and do something with that. So, I get kind of annoyed by the fact that people call eXp a network marketing company. It just happens to be the most, in my opinion, it actually is the highest amount of integrity as a business model, because you're no longer restricting all the benefits to go to the owner of the company. And when you think about it, that's the biggest con that's out there. The biggest con is that you go work for a broker, and guess what? They're the ones that technically can are making the money, and a lot of agents struggle, and there's not all the leadership and all the stuff that goes into it. And the model's broken, but the broker owner won't admit that it's broken, and will tell you that other models like eXp are a scam. So it is funny because they won't make money, and their agents really technically don't have a lot of upside. Whereas if they just change their mindset, they could actually unlock tons of potential in their organizations.
Yes, I wouldn't even think of it just in those terms too, but I think just adding the equity opportunities is icing on the cake, and it's made such a big difference in our culture.
Absolutely. Well, there were two things that were missing for me when I was at Keller. First was profit share didn't work, so revenue share was kind of a big one. The other one was that the only way you could get equity, it was at the local market center level. And if you ever read the franchise documents, which I did because I was offered 1% in one market center, I was like, well, who the hell in their right mind would actually sign this document to actually own a piece of a market center? Because it literally said in there that the reason why you're buying an interest in a market center is because you're basically an idiot and don't know how to do real estate. And as a result, once you sell your interest, you're not supposed to compete with Keller Williams for like a period of like 2 years. And that was like right in this franchise document. I'm going, why the hell would anybody ever sign that thing? I get that there's that companies sell franchises, but local agent, the handcuffs on that thing, it was pretty significant. The difference, eXp has golden handcuffs, and Keller Williams had sort of like I don't know what do you call them, but iron handcuffs with with hot pokers.
That is too funny. Too funny. Well, Glenn, I know it's almost 9:55 here Central Time, and we all have to hop over to leadership here in a little bit. But I just wanted to say again, thank you so much for your time. It was very inspiring. I always love to hear your story. I've heard it several times, but it's always good to hear it again because I know you're very humble person. And I just wanted to say happy revenue share payday to you too. And thanks for changing a lot of agents' lives. It's a lot of fun growing this company that we're a shareholder of. And I still get excited every morning. I get up to share this opportunity and to enjoy life with all these other agents that are having their life change as well, just like mine as well too. So just wanted to again say thank you so much for your time, and you go out, have a great Friday, have a great weekend, and let's keep on growing this amazing company.
Awesome. Thanks, Pat. Thanks, everyone. High five.
Okay. Take care, Glenn. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Glenn.
Bye-bye.